This is the virtual roll call development team, and we're making this video for our install and maintenance guide, which is going to show how to install, maintain, and start working on the next version of virtual roll call. So let's begin. So our team was provided with a development virtual machine by Professor Sajati, which allowed us to start developing work for the VRC project. Our operating system for our virtual machine was an Ubuntu 14.4.5 Linux OS. And from there, we were able to install Apache 2, MySQL, and PHP 5 in order to begin development for our project. Now, the next version of virtual roll call should be able to still use this virtual machine that we were provided with. But if for any reason the virtual machine is no longer available, then you can ask Professor Sajati to provide your group with another virtual machine, also running Ubuntu, and then you can use the following commands in order to install a lamp stack on your new VM. So you can use the command sudo apt-get install Apache 2 in order to install Apache 2, sudo apt-get install MySQL server in order to install MySQL, and finally sudo apt-get install PHP 5 live Apache 2 mod PHP 5 encrypt in order to get the PHP 5 on your VM. And finally, sudo apt-get update will get an update for the most recent installs that you provided. Hopefully you won't be able to do this. You'll be able to access our development server, and Professor Sajati will give you credentials to access it. So, our development server's name is vrc-dev.cs.fiu.edu, and you'll be able to access our development VM as long as you have a typical SSH client, such as PuTTY. So once you type in the name of our development server and you click open, you'll be prompted for your login credentials, which if you need it, will be provided to you by Professor Sajati. So I'm going to go ahead and just go into mine. And once I lose my credentials, I'm able to access our development VM. So now I'm going to take you to our development environment, which was provided under a general user called SCIS admin. So SCIS admin is where we put our public HTML folder, which is required in order to run, store all the web files for the VRC project. So now I'm going to list all the commands list all the files and directories inside public HTML. So you can see this part here is actually what runs our project. So I'm going to go, for example, to the virtual roll call main page. You can see here that virtual roll call version 1.0 here, and the folder called views and index.html is where the home page for the VRC project is located at. So I'm going to go into this folder. And now I'm going to show the directory. So now we have the views, and of course the index.html page is the home page for it. So I'm going to explain the directory structure that we have here inside this README. So here's the code directory structure. So we have app, which contains the controllers, and this is where all the Angular JavaScript controllers for the site are. Then we have PHP, and this is where all the PHP files are, as well as the DB handlers. Important to notice that there's also a directory here called uploads, and uploads is where all of the documents that are uploaded by supervisors are inside the server. Then we have services, which are responsible for data operations, vendor, which are responsible for ngFlow libraries and other logos, and And then we have a app, which defines the Angular application and associated routes. Then we have views, which has images, including the site logo. Then we have partials, which is used with Angular routes to produce single page applications. Then we have style, which has all the CSS files. And then we have the HTML pages for the admin, the supervisor, and the officer. And that structure can be found here, as I showed you. So for example, app, and then for example, if I go to PHP, then you can see the PHP files. And then if I go into uploads, which was explained in this section, you'll see a list of the uploaded documents by the supervisor in the system. Now, this entire directory structure is also available on GitHub, and you can run the command sudo git pull in order to bring the local branch up to date with the remote version, so that if you need to start the project, you can just run the git pull command to get the most recent update of virtual roll call and continue the project up to that point. However, if you're already given access to our development VM, then all the files should already be up to date and you can just start working from there. And finally, I'm going to show you how you can use the MySQL database setup on the development VM. Okay, so if you had to start the project with a new development VM, then once you ran the install MySQL server, in the installation process, you should have been prompted to enter a password in order to access the database. So the password that you should enter for security reasons, I won't mention this video. However, you can email Dr. Sarjadi, who will provide you with the password that the team emailed him with, so that you can have the same credentials used, which is important as some PHP files require the database to have a certain password to access it. If you use a different password, then you'll have to change some of our files in order to reflect the new database environment. Otherwise, if you're given access to our current development VM, then I'll show you how to access the MySQL database on vrc-dev.cs.fiu.edu. So if you use the sudo mysql-p command, then you'll be prompted to enter the password of the database, which you can receive from Professor Sarjadi. The sudo command allows you to run the command as the root user. So after you click it, you'll have to enter the password for your own credentials. And then you'll be prompted to enter the password for the database. Again, for security reasons, I won't show it in the video, but you can receive it from Professor Sarjadi. Alright, so now we're inside the MySQL database, and then you can use the virtual roll call database in order to start making changes as necessary. So I'm going to, for example, show the tables inside the command, and you can see the tables that we have inside the virtual roll call database, and you can use the describe command, for example, to see some of the attributes of the database, such as the type, the default values, and the field names. And you can also then just press exit to leave the database. Now, inside our code directory, you'll be given the dbcommands.sql file, which will allow you to see commands of how the database was created. So this is useful if you're not given access to the database, or you're using a new VM, and so all the commands listed will show you how to create the database, how to use it, and then how to create the tables, such as the officers table, and how to insert the values that are necessary in order to get the project back into the state of virtual roll call version 1. And once again, this is inside the code and database directory. Okay, so the best case scenario is that you're using the vrc-dev.cs.fiu.edu virtual machine. In the event of that, you'll be able to start working on the next version right away. Other than that, if you follow the steps in this video, then you should be able to get the project back up and running to the current state of version 1.0. And hopefully from there, you'll be able to start the next version of the project without any hiccups. Alright, so thank you for watching, and feel free to watch as many times as necessary in order to begin developing the next version of Virtual Roll Call.